The Sandman, Cory Sandhagen. Man, I appreciate the time. How's life for you, all the way over there in Colorado?
Yeah, life's good. Excited that I was able to do well in the last one.
Mhm.
Stuff just opened up again, as far as like restaurants and stuff. Training's good. Yeah, everything's normal.
All right. Now, the holidays just passed. Do you have any New Year's rituals or traditions that you get involved in?
Not really, man. I've been fighting for, quite some time now, so it's like holidays and stuff when you're in a fight camp don't really exist. The only date that really matters is February 6th, and uh, all the other stuff is just like, nah, yeah, I pretend that it's nice, but it doesn't really exist for me right now.
I guess that's just part of getting older in life.
Yeah, maybe it's that too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you have any goals outside of the fight game that you want to accomplish this year?
I did outside the fight game. Well, I suppose a few, but not really, man. Like, sometimes I get asked to do like different things, like, hey, do you want to do this podcast with this person? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And really, man, I'm not very motivated to do anything other than train and fight the best guys that I can right now, and that's really where I keep all of my focus. Like I try sometimes to make little goals for myself, but really all I care about is training and getting better. So, so those, it's just too much effort. Anything else right now is just too much effort.
The lightweight division is, I guess, the sexiest division in MMA around the world. But I feel like the bantamweight division is just as sexy, man. Do you watch bantamweights in other promotions?
Oh yeah, I do actually. I saw Lineker just won the one
Hmm.
championship world title, right?
No, he got the title shot. He beat the former champion, but he got the
Oh,
title
that's
shot. It seems like.
right. Yeah, he beat the former champ. Yeah, I do actually pay attention to one a little bit. I follow a guy who I train with now, Tan Lee. Do you know Tan?
Oh yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, Tan's the man. I've been training with him a little bit the last year or so. So, I of course watch all of his fights. Me and him are good buddies now, and but yeah, the 135 division, man, it's good. It's really technical, and like we're starting to see kind of these smaller guys be able to knock each other out now, which is just a lot more exciting. And you're also seeing like heavier guys do more technical stuff. So the evolution of the sport is great, man. It's happening. It's a really exciting time.
Ton Lee, talking about him, and you've been out at Ryan Hall's gym. Talk about just getting in sessions with those guys, because that's two different aspects, like polar opposites, basically, of styles.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. They do have similar styles. Tan's probably a little bit more explosive than Ryan is. I think Ryan would agree with that too, and I think Tan's like however many knockouts that guy has would also agree with that too. But yeah, so Tan and Ryan train a lot together in DC, so I've been able to kind of jump in there and kind of third wheel and just learn some stuff every now and once every couple of months. And then Ryan's actually been helping me a lot with this camp, which has been cool. But yeah, man, like I think that I mean, it's a little bit more obvious in Ryan's style that it's different. But man, like I've never met anyone that's just more thoughtful about viewing martial arts and combat in general. And so I feel like I just get smarter just sitting in the same room as that guy. So, uh, and I really don't think that I would, after having learned what I didn't know, I can't imagine myself being a champion before I met Ryan and kind of got to know his system a little bit.
Wow, that's major compliments on Ryan, man.
Yeah,
And it sucks for
yeah,
him too, because he didn't fight the whole 2020, man. I spoke to him recently actually about this whole situation, and he's frustrated, but he's a cool, calm, collected guy where he doesn't really show too much.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it bothers him. I think it bothers all of his fans. I want to
Yeah.
watch him fight too. Uh, Watching him fight was the thing where I was like, oh, this guy's actually onto something like different and better, I think, than what most people are doing, and that's kind of what made me reach out. So I hope that he gets a fight soon.
Yeah, definitely. Now, your last fight was on Fight Island. How did you like fighting basically in the middle of the night?
I actually enjoyed Fight Island a lot, man. Like, other than it being really long, which wasn't too much of an obstacle because I was pretty focused on the fight. But when it was over, I was like, oh man, we've been out here for a long time. Like this has been a long trip with the same guys. I think my corners felt the same way. Now the fight thing actually in the morning wasn't that bad. My fight I think was at 8 a.m. And I was just trying to sleep from about like noon to about 10 p.m. And then that's kind of just where I kept myself, and it really wasn't that bad. On the way back was really terrible. I think for like 2 weeks I was up at like 2 or 3 in the morning every morning, which was terrible for 2 weeks. I thought it would never end. And then I kind of got back to normal. But no, man, I actually really enjoyed Abu Dhabi. The hotel was nice, food was good. The whole experience was really fun.
You finished the fight with a spinning head kick. On the technical side, was it something that you saw on tape, or was it just improvising in the moment?
Just improvising, man. I don't do a ton of like, oh, they do this a lot, so let me do this to counter that. Like I don't really do a ton of that. I think that I kind of go in with the advantage of like I do different stuff, so people kind of have to do that with me. And I was switching my feet a lot more than I typically do, just because he has really nasty low kicks, and I didn't want to get hit with too many of those, and in the later rounds have that mess me up. So I was switching my feet a lot more. But other than that, man, it was just kind of improvising, and just being free. I knew that I had hurt him to the body, and then I kind of just wanted to create some chaos. So I just shouted out that I hurt his orbital, and I didn't know if I did or if I didn't. I just kind of wanted that in his head. And I think that when I did spin, he thought it was going to the body, and it went up high. And I'm just fortunate that it hurt him that way.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because usually the corners yell something like that, like he's hurt, or the commentators, you could hear them say it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the rules of war, man, is create chaos. If you can create chaos, and it's a high pressure situation, and when you're in the middle of it, you don't really know what to think if someone says something weird like that. So again, that wasn't really planned. It was just something that I think I had ingrained in my brain because I just been reading a bunch of military strategy books and listening to podcasts and stuff like that.
All right, now you're starting off 2021 with this big fight against Frankie Edgar. What are the main challenges you think you'll likely overcome within yourself in this matchup?
Yeah, good question. I think I'm really excited to fight someone that I know is not gonna let me off the hook with anything. Like Frankie's known for his heart and his will and his just ability to just fully battle out positions and fight for positions really, really hard. And I think that if there's any mental anything or to overcome or to make sure that I have implanted in my brain really well going into that fight, is that I need to be ready for that, because I've seen in his fights that people are like, usually people let go by now, or usually people stop going forward, or usually people stop moving their feet by now. And when you're at this really high level, if you're not used to that, because it's kind of uncommon as you're coming up, especially if you're a lot better than other people, that will mess with you, and I've seen it mess with guys that he's fought when I've been watching footage. So I think that if there's anything, it's just being able to combat that will of his, and just make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and not worried about his will being imposed.
Skill for skill, how do you see yourself matching up against Frankie?
I think, I mean, in every fight going into it, hypothetically, I'm just better everywhere, right?
Yeah,
But
of course,
I
of
don't
course.
whether that's the case or not. Like you never really know, which is interesting because I've fought guys where I'm like, oh, this guy is going to be a really good wrestler, and their wrestling was terrible, and then I fought with guys where I'm like, oh, their wrestling isn't going to be a big issue, and then it has been a big issue, and so you never really know until you get in there, which is half the fun. I think that me specifically, I bring in a lot of advantages that are just different for the division. I'm bigger, or maybe not bigger, but I'm definitely longer, definitely quicker than I would say most of my opponents. And I have a funky style, and it's a pretty cerebral approach. So I think I'm a little bit different in a lot of ways. But I also think that you never really know how good someone is until you actually get to grab them, or you get to have them in front of you.
Are you a type of fighter that has a pre-camp? Because I've been hearing that a lot recently from fighters, that they have this pre-camp and then they go into a full-blown camp. Do you have that?
I think my pre-camp is pretty year-round, if that's what they're
Okay.
talking about. I don't think that we're talking about the same thing, but I'm training year-round, man. Like after a fight, I take a little bit of time off, but I coach at a gym here in Aurora at high altitude. I'm really involved with like helping the amateur guys out on our team, and even some of the professionals and stuff. So for me to be out of the gym is pretty abnormal. And then like I said, man, I'm not motivated to do anything other than kind of like train to get better and get these wins this year and hopefully win a world championship. And that's all that I really have my mind on. So if pre-camp never ends and then camp just kind of starts.
As a coach, do you feel like your performances have a more resounding effect on the fighters than what you actually say to them?
um, I think that it's nice to have a coach where you see what they're teaching you is actually being applied and working. I think that that's an important part. Like for me specifically, I know that I've always enjoyed being coached by people that can kick my ass in the area that they're coaching me in. Um, so I think that that being the case and me having a lot of success with a lot of the things that I teach to them, obviously, uh, there's a lot of confidence that they get to bring into their fight. So yeah, man, I really like being really helpful to the few guys that I extend my hand to.
Now you have Carrington Banks, Christian Allen. Outside of them, who have been the guys that have been helping you more closely for this upcoming fight?
Yeah, so like I said, Ryan Hall has been helping me a lot. We have a guy, Taiwan Claxton, who's in Bellator, who's a good wrestler, who's been helping us out, or helping me out. Dustin Ortiz has been in town, just was looking for a new camp, and came into the gym, which is a perfect look for Frankie. Gives a lot of the same reactions that Frankie gives. So Dustin Ortiz has been a huge help. And then Justin Wetzel, of course, he's kind of my main training partner. A kid, 19, 20-year-old little phenom kid, Elias Rodriguez, has been helping me a lot. Just one of those kids, because I like to train a lot more than I think other people do, and I like to experiment with stuff and drill stuff a lot more. And he's a young kid, so he's always down to stay at the gym until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and just drill stuff over and over again. So I think that those are probably the main guys. But yeah, really, really good looks for the upcoming fight.
Now, where do you see Frankie in his career? Do you see him resurging now, or do you see him as he has plateaued and we've seen the best, or we're seeing the best?
I'm not sure. I think that he looked really good against Munoz. Um, I think that his other two fights were pretty unfortunate. Like he got knocked out by Ortega and then Zombie right afterwards, I think. Neither one of those guys are scrubs. You know what I mean? So I don't like to focus on too much of the whole idea of like, oh, they just got knocked out, so they suck now. It's like, nah, man, that's not how it works. Ortega's about to fight for a title, and then Zombie's just been around for forever. Um, so I think Frankie's still good. I think that he still has it. I think that he definitely looked great against Munoz. From what I have seen, other than the two knockouts before, which are just kind of a circumstance of what happens in this sport occasionally, and I think that he had some bad luck. I still think that he's could compete against those guys and beat those guys a handful of times out of 10. I think that they just beat him on that night. I think he's still good, man. I think that 38 isn't as old as people think, and I'm anticipating a Frankie that's going to be just as good as the old Frankie, if there is a difference between the two.
I hope 38 isn't old, because I'm older than 38, so I don't want to feel like I'm too old. You know what I mean? So,
Well, I
um,
also trained with the guy Andy Sauer in Holland a lot,
oh yeah,
uh,
yeah,
and Andy just fought and won too, and
yeah,
he
that's
looked
right.
phenomenal also.
Yeah.
And I think he's the same age as I think he's 38 also. So I don't, he looked great in that one. Like I don't buy the whole 38 is old
Mhm.
thing anymore.
Yeah, you can't. You felt it yourself, so you know what it is. With 5 round fights compared to 3 round fights, does a 3 round fight, you believe, allow fighters to take more chances to go for the finish?
A 3 round fight
Yeah, a
versus a
three
five.
rounder. Yeah.
mm I don't know if it would make me want to finish more or less. Personally, I think a five. It would definitely depend on the fighter. For me, well, I think some fighters definitely don't want to fight 5 rounds, so that might impact their decision. For me, I enjoy 5 round fights a little bit more. I think that they're just the longer I have in the time I have in the cage with those guys, I think that the more I'm able to break them apart. Whereas 3 rounds kind of seems a little bit more frenetic. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought of that, I guess.
Now with Frankie, you know what I mean? Like I don't think we've seen him use his wrestling since the Yair Rodriguez fight, but we know he has that in his arsenal. Seems like whenever he faces off with a striker, he wants to strike with him. And so, what type of performance do you think you're gonna have against Frankie? Because you're gonna get like either one.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually watched the Yair fight, I think, just the other day. Um, yeah, that was an interesting fight, man. Yair, I think, likes to, he's the type of guy that likes to have a dramatic finish, So I think that he was hunting for stuff on the bottom. I don't know how many times he tried to even get up from the bottom. Uh, but I mean, I think I don't know, against Munoz he didn't really shoot, and when he did, he kind of just touched the legs and then would start punching again, and so I don't really know, man. I'm ready for whatever the fight brings. I've gotten in trouble in the past of anticipating my opponent doing certain things, and then when they don't do those certain things, you kind of ask yourself why they're not, and then you're not focused on the fight. So I go in anticipating whatever is going to happen. I'm going to do what I can as much as I can, and then when they disrupt that, then I have to just make adjustments to that because they will disrupt that, and then just having my plan B, C, D, and E in line, and then that's kind of where I keep my head going into a fight.
A couple more things. Where do you feel like a win over Edgar puts you in this division? Because you are number two. So it's like, do you line up for a title shot right away?
I think it's got to be a title shot if it makes sense in my head, only because and that's why I took the fight more than anything, is just because I think that if I beat Frankie and I keep myself busy and I don't play this game of like, oh, I'm the number two guy, so I deserve it after that. Like I'm not gonna play that game with the UFC. So I wanted to stay busy. I wanted a big name. I wanted someone that was good, and Edgar's it, and that's kind of the point, of me taking this fight. I think TJ definitely needs a win over one of these top guys too before he comes back and fights for a belt. I heard him say that he's playing the financially secure card, and I'll wait for a title shot and this and that. And it's like, we've been putting in work while you've been gone, and so that would kind of be a bummer if they just gave it to him. I could foresee them doing Aldo and TJ together, which as a fight fan would be an amazing fight, but also Aldo just beat someone that's out of the top 10 and he already had his shot. So is that even the fight to really make? I don't even know. But I think if Garbrandt's going down, really the only one coming off of a big win, I guess, is Font. I don't really know what he's ranked now. What is he ranked? Do you know?
I think he's like maybe five around there.
Oh, okay. Um, and then I think that was maybe Font's first top five win.
Yeah.
And then so I mean, if I beat Edgar, this is my third top five win. And I know that I really blew it against Aljamain, which I really want to get that one back eventually. But yeah, I mean, I think me taking this Edgar fight is just me staying busy, me keeping my name in the mix, and me not playing this like game with the UFC of like, oh, I deserve next, and then having to beg them. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep winning fights. I'm going to keep looking good. I'm going to stay active, and then when I get my title shot, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that that's a great attitude to have because if you look at the featherweight division, a lot of the guys just sat around and felt like they deserved the title shot and they didn't fight and they've been gone for. Biggest example is Zabit. You know what I mean? He had a big win and then he just sat out and just said like, I'm not gonna fight until I get a fight that I want. And now he's not even in the title picture anymore. And you got, Volkanovski's fighting Ortega, and then you got some other matchups coming up. So yeah, I think that that's great that you have that attitude because even if you lose and you come back and win, the next fight could be for the title. That's how the UFC works now, right?
Yep. And especially in the division, everyone's good. There's a lot of huge names, so it's like, I do understand though when fighters want to be treated more fairly. Like I can understand that. Like I can understand the whole like, hey, I beat the number 3 guy, so I should be fighting the number 1 guy, or I beat the number 7 guy, so now I want to fight up and this and that. And I think that while the rankings are kind of good, they also got the UFC in a little bit of trouble just because I think it's made fighters a little bit stubborn, which is fine. That's on their own accord. You know, everyone fights for different reasons and stuff. But for me right now in my career, it's fight as many guys as I can, get as much experience as I can, win a world title this year, hopefully, and then reign as champ for as long as I can.
Cory, I always appreciate you giving me time ahead of your fights, man, because every fight is a big fight. One of the biggest names to ever step foot into the octagon. You're going to get to face him and improve yourself, which is what you want to do. Thank you so much, Cory, for the time.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate talking to you.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you